Um, Also, a lot of my experience is particular to Caribbean food, and so I can bring that. And just bring my basic experience. But I think that my testimony is also really important because I I'm proudly a self-taught chef,
Yes.
and I think that what I can give them is a testimony just to say, hey, if I did it, you can do it also. I learned pretty much how to cook in my 30s, and you can too.
I talk to a lot of people who they don't have your same story, but I talk to a lot of people who say that they are self-trained chefs, and I want to know exactly how does that work because you guys really know what you're doing as far as ingredients and technique. You have great technique and style. You have your own culinary point of view, and you feel really comfortable in the kitchen. So how does that come about being a self trained chef? Well,
Well,
in
you're
your case, of course.
in my case, I'm always self-conscious, so I always have like I always am self-conscious, so that means that I'm going to work a lot harder. I'm going to study. I'm going to practice every day I'm learning. And so no, I didn't go to culinary school, which usually focuses on certain techniques, whether it may be French techniques, but there's things that I feel like I need to focus on because my strengths and my desires and the things that I want to learn are Caribbean food. And so that's kind of like the world that I usually dive into. But I definitely study. I think you just and this journey just continues. You just keep learning.
Okay. So when you say Caribbean food, it's so vast. There's so many islands and countries in the
Hmm.
Caribbean. Are there any particular areas that you concentrate in as far as those islands and Puerto Rico?
So yeah, so my family's from Puerto Rico, so I do a lot of lesser known Puerto Rican dishes, a lot of dishes that you won't find in menus in Chicago. But then I also have
Such
a
as
such as um, let's say arepas de coco. That's something that arepas, so it's like a fried bread with coconut. It's something that's particular to a specific town,
okay.
and you're not gonna find it here. A lot of also things that
Is that
maybe
dessert?
foods. No, no, because it's although you get the aromatics of the coconut, it
Okay.
doesn't taste like coconut.
Sounds
Or you do get a hint, but then a lot of times it's also paired with something that's salty. So then you have that beautiful mix of sweet and salty. So it's pretty
okay.
much how you pair it.
Okay. Anything else that comes to mind?
Um, yeah, a lot of the older things like guanimes, which is something like parallel to tamales in Mexico or Central America, something that was done by the indigenous populations of Puerto Rico. And so with the African influence, then instead of using corn husks, they use banana leaves,
Hmm.
and so it's something different, but it's something that's lesser known, something that you won't find in restaurants here in Chicago. And if you
So
do, it's just as
so is
special.
it taste? Does it get a taste different because it's in the banana husk? What makes it different beyond that? The banana husk.
So tamales usually have their proteins on the inside,
Hmm.
where for guanimes usually it's on the outside and on top. So it's a
Okay.
little different. And yes, the banana leaf does give a little touch of different flavor.
Interesting. Is this something
Yeah,
that you've made before?
yeah, for sure, for
What
sure.
proteins do you
Well,
usually use with this?
fish, salted fish. You can use something even kind of salty, corned beef. You can use all these different things that something saucy kind of to soak up the corn.
Oh, sounds so good. I love tamales. So, is this something that I can seek out, or is it usually somewhere? Is it usually something at someone's home that they're making it?
Yeah, so every now and then I have seen it on the menu at a Puerto Rican restaurant called Casa Yari in Logan Square. And I have taught it in my classes before,
Okay.
and different variations. So if ever somebody takes the Caribbean cooking classes, sometimes I'm teaching that.
And the Logan Square is a predominantly Puerto Rican neighborhood.
It's changing. Chicago's changing so much.
Yeah.
So there are Puerto Ricans there, but the Puerto Rican population is pretty much scattered
Mhm.
throughout the city because of how expensive it is to live in certain places like Logan Square.
Speaking of which, how influential, not influential, but how popular do you think Puerto Rican cuisine is? Do you think more people are finding out about it? And if yes, where can you usually find it beyond Chicago?
Beyond Chicago, well, wherever there's like big Puerto Rican populations, such as New York, Philadelphia, Miami, wherever there's plantains. uh, but Chicago does. There are right now in Chicago for the last 20 years. It's been the jibarito sandwich, which is the sandwich that uses the plantain as the bread.
Hmm.
And so that's been a real popular thing. That is particular to Chicago,
Hmm.
which is also telling of how like influential the Chicago Puerto Rican population is.
Do you have your own spin on the burrito?
Do I have my own spin? Yeah, you can always make your own spin for sure. Because so many people do it, I kind of stay away from it a little bit.
Okay.
Just because it's kind of overdone, oversaturated a little bit.